as a solicitor. And his contemporaries, who also went to Harrow with him. Among several were Lord Byron, the famous poet. Procter served as conveyancer and barrister, as well as solicitor, and was also appointed Metropolitan Commissioner of Lunacy. The Commissioners of Lunacy, with its very intriguing name, had the beginnings in the Madhouses Act of 1774 and 1828, and after the Lunacy Act of 1845. And these commissioners were retitled Masters in Lunacy. Quite a title for anyone to hold, though a serious undertaking. Interestingly, the head of the commission from its founding in 1845 was Anthony Ashley Cooper, 7th Earl of Shaftesbury. The first secretary to the commissioners was Robert Wilfred Skeffington Lutwidge. Now this man, with his interesting name, was indeed a barrister as well, and the uncle of Lewis Carroll. So some interesting connections there, perhaps. Returning to Brian Procter, or Barry Cornwall, as his nom de plume would have it. Most of his verse he composed between 1817, when he began to contribute to the Literary Gazette in 1815, and 1823 or possibly 1832, so it was this early stage of the 19th century, and this wonderful Literary Gazette, which also had its compatriots on the continent when, after the Napoleonic Wars, Literary and Gentlemen's Society for academics, scholars, poets, writers, philosophers began to become popular. At its peak, from the 1820s until the end of the 1840s, the Literary Gazette exercised and influenced many in high places. The reviewers in influential quarterlies were tending towards political commentary rather than actually talking about and describing the books that they were purported to review, whereas the Literary Gazette was not interested in promoting political ideologies and included extensive quotations from these pieces of literature, as well as philosophical tracts. This attracted a wide audience in its time. The Literary Gazette sold for the very affordable price of 8 pence, and its circulation at its peak reached 4,000 copies a week. Any author receiving a favorable review in the Literary Gazette was certain of success, whereas mixed reviews might mean disaster. The first poem of Procter's that we will read is about a petrel. Petrels are marine birds, seabirds, related to, among others, the albatross, puffin, and auk. There are 4 extant families of petrel, dominant mainly in the southern oceans. They were said to follow ships with their fluttering and diving aerobatics. Petrels range in colour from dark grey to white, with beautiful patterns of feathers, and are common in temperate and cold waters. The explorer William Dampier wrote that this petrel was so called from the way it would fly with its feet just skimming the surface of the water, recalling St. Peter's walk on the Sea of Galilee, Peter being Petrus in Latin. 1,000 miles from land we are, tossing about on the roaring sea, from billow to bounding billow cast like fleecy snow on the stormy blast. The sails are scattered abroad like weeds, the strong masts shake like quivering reeds, the mighty cables and iron chains, the hull which all earthly strength disdains. They strain and they crack, and hearts like stone their natural hard, proud strength disown. Up and down, from the base of the wave to the billow's crown, and amidst the flashing and feathery foam, the Stormy Petrel finds a home, if such a place may be, for her who lives on the wide, wide sea, on the craggy ice, in frozen air, and only seeketh her rocky lair, to warm her young, and to teach them spring at once o'er the waves on their stormy wing, o'er the deep, where the whale and the shark and the swordfish sleep, outflying the blast and the driving rain. The petrel telleth her tale in vain, for the mariner curseth the warning bird, who bringeth him news of the storms unheard. Ah, thus does the prophet of good or ill meet hate from the creatures he serveth still. Yet he never falters, so Petrel, spring once more o'er the waves on thy stormy wing. The second poem, by Procter or Barry Cornwall, is somewhat sad and has some pathos to it, like the Stormy Petrel, but also a little bit of comfort. It's called Sit Down, Sad Soul. Sit down, sad soul, and count the moments flying. Come, tell the sweet amount that's lost by sighing. How many smiles? A score. Then laugh and count no more, for day is dying. Lie down, sad soul, and sleep, and no more measure the flight of time, nor weep the loss of leisure. But here, by this lone stream, lie down with us, and dream of starry treasure. We dream, do thou the same. We love, forever. We laugh, yet few we shame. The gentle never. Stay, then, till sorrow dies. Then, hope and happy skies are thine forever. This little poem is very comforting, I find, and reminds because when you wake, it's a new day, a new hour, and you can start fresh with all of the renewed energy, and smile at yourself. There will be no more sorrow. Thank you everyone for watching and liking and commenting if you enjoyed this video. I'd like to thank our May patrons of the study, and I've mixed some ink that reminds me of Stormy Petrels. I've used a purple Jacques Herbin. It's a sort of a muted violet, and I've mixed it with this grey